You know your day's about to go sideways when your peaceful Sunday morning coffee gets cut short by someone hammering at your front door like they're about to break it down. I opened it to find, who else? Karen. Yes, her actual name. HOA. President. Self-appointed rule enforcer. And today, apparently, a self-proclaimed real estate lawyer. She stood there with her trusty clipboard, lips pursed so tight they could have kept a jar sealed. "I need to talk to you about your driveway," she announced. No greeting, no smile, just straight to business. I blinked. "What about it?" Karen threw her arm out with dramatic flair, gesturing toward the red diamond-patterned concrete that led to my garage. That driveway was my pride and joy. 3 full weekends of sweat and labor alongside my cousin, who specializes in high-end concrete. Work. The design was flawless. A work of art. And she knew it. "That driveway," she said, nose in the air, "extends into community property, which means it's technically not yours. I'm informing you that the HOA has voted to reclaim it." I almost spit out my coffee. "Reclaim it?" "Karen, I paid for every inch of that driveway, and I poured it myself." "You've lost your mind." She flipped through her papers like some courtroom actress. "It's in violation of uniform aesthetics, and more importantly, it crosses the 10-foot easement line, which means it partially belongs to the HOA. I've filed an official claim. Expect a notice this week. Now, I'm not usually a confrontational guy, but this was war." I stepped forward, planting my foot on the driveway. "Funny, because I checked the property lines before I poured it. City records confirm it. You want to challenge that? Be my guest. But if you set one foot on this driveway, Karen, I'll have you trespassed." Her nostrils flared. "You're being unreasonable. This isn't personal. I'm simply enforcing the rules." "Rules," I said, "that you rewrite whenever they suit you. Like when you painted your pool fence electric blue without approval." Her face flushed. "That was temporary, and approved retroactively." "Uh-huh. Then let's try retroactively approving my driveway." With that, Karen spun on her heels, stomping away, her heels clacking against the very driveway she'd just tried to seize. But here's the thing. She wasn't the only one who knew how to play games with property lines. Behind her meticulously manicured backyard sat the community pool, and the only direct access to it was through a gate in her fence. A fence that, thanks to an old easement agreement, actually sat 3 feet into my property. I'd always let it slide. Until now. If Karen wanted a battle, I had just the move. I spent the next 2 days tearing through old files until I found it. A signed easement agreement from 1998. Clear as day, it stated that part of her fence, and the only gate leading to the pool, rested on my land. And the kicker? The easement was revocable by the current landowner, which was me. Karen's private pool gate? Yeah, she'd kept that little perk hidden from the HOA. Everyone else had to walk all the way around the block to get to the pool. But Karen? She had a personal shortcut. For decades. Not anymore. I marched down to City Hall, paperwork in hand, and revoked the easement. Took me 20 minutes and a signature. That night, while Karen was off at her Wednesday wine and wine club with the other HOA royals, I rolled up my sleeves. A few tools, a lock, and some bolts later, her precious gate was sealed shut. The next morning, she stormed over like a hornet in heels. Did you lock my pool gate?" I calmly sipped my coffee. "My gate. And yes, you're trespassing." "You can't do that," she screeched. "I can. The easement's revoked. From now on, you'll have to use the main entrance, like everyone else." Her face went redder than my driveway. "You're retaliating because of the HOA ruling." "Oh, you mean the one about my driveway? The one that hasn't gone through legal review and won't hold up in court?" "Yeah, no. I'm just protecting my property." "This is harassment," she howled. "I'm calling the board." "Be my guest," I said. "And while you're at it, maybe tell them about your secret VIP pool gate. I'm sure the neighbors will love that story." That shut her right up. Karen stomped back to her house, snapping a dozen photos of her own fence like that would somehow prove I was the villain. But by the weekend, the complaints rolling into the HOA weren't about me. They were about her. Neighbors wanted to know why she had a private entrance, while everyone else was forced to hoof it around the block. Suddenly, Karen's tone shifted. She showed up at my door, all fake smiles and lemon bars in hand. "Let's talk about a compromise," Karen said one morning, forcing a smile as she held out a plate of lemon bars. I smiled back, accepting the plate. "Sure, let's talk." But inside, I wasn't done. Not even close. She still hadn't withdrawn. That bogus claim against my driveway. By Monday, Karen was in full-blown damage control mode. The neighborhood group chat, once her personal kingdom, had turned against her. Screenshots of my locked pool gate, pictures of the revoked easement, and whispers about favoritism spread like wildfire. HOA politics might usually move at a snail's pace, but gossip? Gossip burns fast. Still, this was Karen. Backing down wasn't in her vocabulary. Instead, she doubled down. That afternoon, a notice appeared taped to my front door, courtesy of the HOA Compliance Committee, which just happened to include her 2 wine club cronies. The letter cited me for unauthorized landscaping materials, calling out the red diamond concrete driveway I'd installed. The same driveway I'd submitted plans for months earlier and had received stamped approval from the HOA secretary before Karen ever became president. I scanned the letter, then laughed out loud. She was literally pulling rules out of thin air now, but the final straw wasn't that fake notice. It was what came next. I caught her on camera, spraying orange chalk paint on my driveway. Her excuse? Marking community property boundaries. I watched the footage twice just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Nope. There she was, oversized sun hat, sunglasses and all, practically vandalizing the concrete I had spent weeks perfecting. So, I printed stills from the footage, tucked them under my arm, and marched straight into the next HOA meeting. The room went dead silent the second I walked in. Karen sat at the head table, her eyes widening as I approached. I didn't wait for formalities. I set the photos down in front of her and said, calmly but loud enough for everyone to hear, "Unless you want to explain to the entire board why the HOA president was defacing my private property with spray paint, I'd suggest you drop the driveway claim." The room gasped. Karen stammered something about survey discrepancies, but the damage was done. The HOA treasurer, a retired civil engineer, leaned forward, glanced at the photos, and cut her off. "That's not boundary work, that's a lawsuit, waiting to happen." Just like that, the board voted to table the complaint about my driveway and launch a third-party review, which in HOA speak basically meant, this is over, but we'll act like we're still checking to save face. Walked out of that meeting lighter than air. Karen, on the other hand, looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon whole. And just as I thought things might cool off, boom. The next morning, an email. Subject line, urgent request, gate access reconsideration. She wanted to restore harmony in the neighborhood by reopening her pool gate access. I nearly spit out my coffee. Harmony? From her? But hey, if she wanted peace, I was going to make her work for it. I didn't respond right away. Letting her stew was half the fun. 2 days later, she showed up in person. No clipboard this time. No smug one-liners. Just a tight smile and a Tupperware container of gluten-free cookies. "I brought these as a peace offering," she said, like we were in some Hallmark movie instead of the middle of a Cold War. I raised an eyebrow. "What's this? Cookies now? Lemon bars not good enough?" She exhaled sharply. "Look, I've had time to reflect. Maybe I was too aggressive. Fine, I was too aggressive. I'd like to work out a compromise. I really need access to that." Right. My husband's back isn't what it used to be, and walking around the block is inconvenient. Which was funny, because Karen didn't have a husband, she had a poodle named Duke, and yes, Duke wore sunglasses. But I let that slide. I leaned against the fence post, arms crossed. I might be open to reopening the gate, but I'll need something in writing. Her eyes narrowed. What kind of something? A signed and notarized document from the HOA permanently withdrawing any current or future claims on my driveway, decorative or otherwise. Plus, an official statement at the next board meeting declaring the driveway fully approved and not in violation of any guidelines. Karen bristled. That's a lot, I shrugged. So is trespassing and vandalizing private property. She glanced at the lock on the gate, like it had betrayed her. And one more thing, I added. You're going to recuse yourself from any future decisions involving my property. That's not how HOAs work, she snapped. It is now. The silence that followed was almost musical. You could practically hear her ego cracking like cheap tile. I'll take it to the board, she finally muttered. Make sure you do, I said, giving the locked gate a friendly pat. Or that lock stays right where it is. To her credit, she followed through. At the next meeting, Karen, gritting her teeth, so hard you could see her jaw twitch, stood up and read aloud a motion to withdraw all complaints regarding my driveway. Signed, notarized, official. The room erupted in applause. Almost felt bad for her. Almost. Afterward, she tried to spin it, saying, sometimes being a leader means knowing when to compromise. I smiled. Sure does. And sometimes it means not stepping onto someone else's concrete. That night, I quietly unlocked the pool gate. No speech, no victory lap. The next morning, there was a card in my mailbox. Inside, a handwritten note. Let's call it even. I chuckled. Because in this neighborhood chess game, Karen had just learned the golden rule. Never pick a fight with someone who knows the property lines better than you do. And if watching HOA Karen get outplayed made your day, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story of sweet neighborhood justice. Got your own HOA horror story or a petty revenge win? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear how you handled it.